Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for joining this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing wonderful, although it's cold here in Florida, which we're not used to.
Is it not normally cold in US all the time?
It's not this cold. It's been like down in the 30s and it's 40s, and it's not normally this cold.
No, right. Yeah, it's everywhere like it seemed to be like getting colder and colder, right, compared to what normally is. Even though UK, I think last week we had a -8 degrees. So I don't know about Fahrenheit, how probably less than like a 20 degrees, not sure. So yeah. Anyway, like if you're doing well, that's the most important part, right, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Just put
Yeah.
on more layers of clothes. That's all.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, today we'll be learning more about yourself, your journey into business, and also the work you do, like helping people getting out of their negative thoughts, and how you can do that, like for other people, so we're gonna learn more about that. So before that, I'd love to know more about yourself. Like, when did you decide to become a coach for yourself, like helping other people?
Well, that's a kind of an interesting story. I'm a massage therapist by training, and that's what I've done for over 20 years. But with that, I've always coached people without even realizing I was coaching them. Like you get on my table and you can't relax because you're stressed out or you have stuff
Mm,
going on. So I start talking to people and getting them talking to me. And, with a coach, you don't necessarily say, this is what you should do. You do more of the, what do you think would work, and how, you try to draw it out of them, because we all have solutions. Is just being able to look outside the box that we're in.
yeah.
So I've always done that. So back probably about 7 years ago, I said, I'm getting older and I'm having issues due to a car accident. And so what else can I do? And I started looking into coaching, and I was like, I already do this. This is something I've done for 20 years. So
Mm.
I started going and getting my training. And then I went and got NLP master practitioner. And it makes me feel so much better to know that I can help so many more people. Massage is awesome, but you help one person at a time.
Yeah.
Where you with coaching, you can help more people in general than with massage.
Yeah, totally agree on that. So, of course, like you've seen the pattern, like you've been helping other people in there, like you want to impact more people life, and then obviously you took the lead for like a business and trying to like help with your skills and now NLP and everything like that. So obviously, with helping people like over 20 years, you mentioned like when you're giving the massage, probably they come in with their problems and sharing with you, like you try to solve them. So with that, like you probably seen like everyone have some kind of problem with like they talking negative about themselves, their circumstance and things like that. So right now, like what you do, like you help break those kind of negative thought patterns. So when someone have like the problems, like when they thinking negative, what's the first thing like you say like creating that? Is it because of whatever happened to them in the past, or like they worry about the future? Like why the negative thoughts keep coming onto our brain?
Well, some of it could be just simple things. Like even with me, it was something I've dealt with a lot of this in my adult life, the negative thought patterns, and especially around business and doing things on my own. So when I started doing it, I did the NLP, I started looking at myself. You always self-analyze, right?
Yeah.
So I started looking at myself, and I realized that something as simple as a family member saying, oh, you're not going to be able to go to a normal college. You're going to have to go to a county, or Dutchess County Community College. You're going to have to go to a community college. That impacted me years later. Like, I'm not smart enough. So
Mm,
that's something that, and it wasn't necessarily meant as bad as it sounded in my head. And so, but it kept coming up like, well, I can't do my own business because I'll never succeed because I'm not smart enough. I'm not. So it's a matter of recognizing that as the issue, and then recognizing where it came from. So that's where NLP, we can go back in your timeline and kind of find where something came from, and then challenging that question, challenging it, sitting there and saying, why is this not right? I've already have 2 degrees in college. I was one of the highest scores coming out of my massage school in 10, 15 years. I am obviously smart enough to run my own business. I am obviously smart enough to do this. Why do I think that? So let's challenge that.
yes, that totally makes sense. Like what society tells us, and we start believing themselves, right? and that's not often like a true like what they tells you. Sometimes like even though our parents, the people we love, they try to protect us from like going through the harm because probably they experienced something in the loss. So for an example, if someone in like say our parents like started a business and that didn't go well, then obviously like they're gonna ask you like go for like a secure job or do something like more stable compared to business is always a risky involved in it. So then it doesn't necessarily mean like you're not gonna get successful on if you do business because they probably so many circumstances they have to go through. Probably your parents didn't have the kind of knowledge experiences, like they tried a different way. Probably the business, the market didn't want the kind of products or services they was offering. There's so many things to learn. So instead of like going negative about it, I think like a most important question is like why your business failed, or like why you saying that, like is it because of like you tried it, it didn't work out, and where it didn't work out for yourself, right? Then you can uncover like all of them things, like why someone is telling you like you cannot do that, or like this is not possible. Because when you have like uncovered the layer of it, it makes so much sense. So when let's say someone is comes to you and they got the negative thought patterns and they cannot think any positive anymore because of everything what they do or try, like they feel like things not going to work out. So how do you change that thought pattern with your practice, with your experience?
Well, there's a few things you can do. So there's the general stuff, right? There's the mindfulness meditations, there's the positive affirmations. But if it's really ingrained within you, um, it's kind of hard to do just through mindfulness. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard just to do through challenging your negative thoughts. You have to go back and there's different techniques through NLP, like reframing, going back to that moment that this thought process started, that negative thought process started, and reframe the situation and reframe your thinking, because we know a lot more when we're older than when we're younger. When we're younger, something as simple as that could be taken so much worse. So let's go back and reframe that and kind of look at it with your knowledge today on why they might have said that, why that's how you took it might have been a little bit extreme. So let's go back and reframe it and change it so that it doesn't affect you so much today. And also
Yeah.
just the language
Mhm.
patterns, not saying I can't. Like I'm really good at saying, well, I can't do that, because with some marketing stuff I can be a little bit, not exactly easy. So I'm like, well, I can't do that. So now I've started over the years started saying I can't do that yet, or I'm working on succeeding in that, because by
Mm.
saying that I'm giving myself room to grow. But if I say I can't, that's
That door
it.
is closed, isn't it? Yeah.
That's You've
Yeah.
convinced yourself there's no way you're going to do it. Just like with my clients in pain, if they're in pain and they say I'll always be in pain, guess what? I can't change that no matter how hard I try.
Mm. Yeah, it's just the same thing like I experienced a couple of years back with my health. And I was in a serious problem like anxiety attacks after anxiety attack because of the medication I was on, because of my ulcerative colitis, and it completely changed myself. And even though I was trying first few months, like even though I couldn't think about any kind of positivity, it's like I'm feeling like I'm going down the road, like I'm probably not gonna make it through because of it's keep on getting worse by worse. And then I think last year January, I made a decision like I'm not gonna think about anything negative anymore. Like I take it one day at a time and do whatever I can possibly do and visualize myself like going recovering from the illness. I'm getting better. I'm doing that activities I used to love doing, slowly with the like the possibility is coming, and I just found a solution. I started doing meditation, started doing mindfulness practice, breathing exercise, yoga. That actually helped me to be in present moment rather than like me thinking all of them what could be possibly wrong, because I created like a anxiety disorder with a health anxiety disorder. So I was already going through so many health issues. Top of that, every time I get ache here, I feel like, oh, this is some kind of big problem. If I get any lump in here, like probably it's a cancerous, or if I get headache, I'll go brain tumor. So I've been going through that, like I've been researching and everything, and all the time, like creating all the negative patterns keep getting bigger and bigger. So I had to stop all them distraction, stop Googling stuff, and like taking it as it is. Like if something is really serious, going to the doctor, they checks out, everything's fine. I'm not saying like the doctor it was wrong, like the test didn't go through, like everything. So I read one of them book about health anxiety, and it actually helped me like overcome that situation. So only it came through the mind, the way you think and everything. So what do you do for your like mindset or like a being positive all the time. Obviously, as a human, like you're gonna have like a days sometime yourself feel like alone, negative and things like that. So do you have any kind of process or formula you use like every time the negative thoughts comes in and you take them steps one, two, three like that?
I do a lot, and I've had that actually last a little under 2 years ago. I was hit by a car, so I kind of like went into a very deep depression and a
Mm,
lot of negative thinking at that point. And I do a lot of um the mindfulness, the what's going on right now. I try not to. My family trained me to look at the future and try to, figure out what's going to happen, and that can get really negative very fast. So I try to keep myself in the moment, and with my 7-year old it's kind of easy to keep myself in the moment because she's crazy. So I always have to, I'm always right there and doing stuff with her. But when I start to have those negative thoughts, I really think about where I've been, what I've gotten, where I've been, and what I've succeeded in. That helps me kind of stay positive. Like I've done a lot more than I thought I ever would already. And I'm in the process of doing even more. So
mm,
thinking about what I have right now. I have a husband, I have a daughter, I have a business, I have, the second part of my business is the coaching, and I'm working to grow that. And this is all stuff I've done myself. Like I've done. So I think about everything I have, and instead of what I don't have, like
yeah.
it helps a lot to really, and then visualizing where I want to be, visualizing this is where I want to be 5 years from now, and really thinking about what what steps I need to do, to not thinking about the negative part, just thinking about what steps I need to do. And even the negative, you can kind of look at it like, well, what if something comes up? Okay, what if I have a health problem? What are the steps I can take to not make that negative? So you can
Mm,
even thinking about some of the negative stuff, you can always make it more positive just by finding solutions ahead of time.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. Like you talked about gratitude, which is like really, really important. Like being in present like what we have rather than what we don't have is focusing so much like you cannot complain that time like and they you cannot go like a negative while you're thinking about what you have like family, children, the business, job, whatever you're doing, or like if you have anything, even though being alive itself, like even though you haven't figured out anything, you're not married, you don't have a child, but just being alive, like being healthy enough compared to like someone else who lost their legs and they're in a bed, cannot do anything. So there is like always like you can look for like someone is below than you and you be grateful for like whatever you have achieved. And also another thing you talked about like past achievement where you talk about like in the past like you succeeded something that gives you like a confidence. Like if I can do that, then obviously I can do that as well. Like in the past I probably started my own business doing that for 10 years. Now why not? I'm gonna be successful in my second business or third business. I can do that. Like obviously their self-doubt comes in, even though so one of the tennis player Novak Djokovic is number one in the world, and he was number three in the world, and he has a self-doubt like quitting the tennis playing because he's not number one, and he having a doubt like am I an imposter? Like I'm not good enough to play like at the highest level, even though he achieved so much, so many money and fame, everything, number three in the world, and there is still like I feel like something is missing. So you're always gonna get that, and there is always like you have to look back wherever you achieved, and that gives you like a boost. And also, you talked about visualization, which is like probably your circumstance is not that great. Like with my case, like I was in a pain, I was like a terrible, constantly feeling dizzy. So there is no something like I can be happy with my present moment. There was always like I'm gonna be happy about just looking forward to like my next day. Could be tomorrow is my day. Like I'm gonna start feeling better. Could be like 1 month from now, 2 months from now. So that actually helped me. So, Megan, we're nearly coming to the end of this podcast. Before that, I'd love to know more about if anyone is going through their lowest moment of their life, they are so negative, they things like this is the worst case scenario they are having. What would be like your advice to get out from the negative, the pattern? Like, what would be the number one thing? I know there is so many steps we can go through, but what would be your number one?
Um, Number one is, I know when I've been through some of my lowest times, I've reached out to someone, because you can get so in your mind can get so like festering of all the negativity, that if you reach out to someone, whether it's a friend or family, or if you know someone who's a coach. I've reached out to other coaches. um and talk to them about it, because they'll see it in a different light. And what
Mm.
happens there is they'll say, but what about this? But what about this? And they'll kind of bring the positivity back, so to kind of bring you more rational. Because what we do is when our mind is festering, we become very irrational with our
Yeah.
thoughts. And so what I found, like either calling my mom or calling someone, I I have certain people I will call on when I need that. I know I'm going irrational right now. I know my brain is just not working with me. So let's call someone who can bring me back to where I need to be to move forward.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things I've done. When I was hit by the car, one of the first things my husband said I said after I stopped screaming was, I'm going to lose everything. And that became a cycle in my mind. Like, I'm
Mm.
just going to lose everything. So I reached out to my mom and I reached out to friends. My husband wasn't going to help me, not because he can't, but because he's here and he doesn't understand what I'm going through. So
Yeah.
I called out to my mom, and then I called out to some coaching friends that reminded me of my NLP. Because, when you get into those moments and those patterns, what doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
still, so I reached out to people. I started telling them, friends and family, what was going on with me. And they're like, yeah, but you have employees, you're running the business still. But, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. So now where do I go from here? So by
Mm.
saying that, by reaching out and by telling them my fears and what was going on with me, I got them to say, hey, wait, no, no, let's rethink this. Let's calm down and think rationally about this. And let's argue with ourselves here.
Yeah.
So that kind of really makes a difference when you have at least one person that you can call on for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Totally agree on that. So, Megan, thank you so much for your advice and coming to the show today. So, if anyone wants to learn more about yourself, your business, where's the best place to find you?
PhoenixBodyandMind.net. And right now, I'm in the process of creating a little class on mindset shifting so that you can get started with it for anything that you want. You want to succeed in business, or you want to get a better relationship or be better in your relationship. It's mindset shifting is huge. Our mind is so powerful.
That's
So
great. Thank you so much.
PhoenixBodyandMind.net, or on Facebook and on TikTok and Instagram, it's all Phoenix Body Mind.
Okay. All right, Megan, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you best of luck with your business, your personal
Thank you so
life.
much for having me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And you have a wonderful year ahead. And thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Most welcome. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode with Megan today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If anyone wants to learn more about her, you can visit her website or you can reach out on social media platforms. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.